currently autumn here in Australia, and autumn is one of my most favourite seasons of the year. No, it is my favourite season, I think. Everything is just on a sunny day, everything is basked in that gold autumn light that we all love. There's a certain smell in the air. I love the turning leaves. I don't love raking up my leaves, but nonetheless, it's such a beautiful, picturesque season. So therefore, why not do a gel pen page in Johanna Basford's Magical Worlds? Why not? I mean, it was practically asking me to do it. And today we're colouring this foxy little number. Isn't he cute? He's so cute. He's such a baby. He's just a baby. He's just a baby. So today we are going for shimmery, golden, copper tones here. So we're keeping it fairly limited and always adding in some white, which is my absolute favorite thing to add in on a gel pen page. So if you are struggling with your gel pens and you're not quite sure how to apply them in your coloring books, then this video is for you. Today I'm going to teach you how to apply your gel pens in a harmonious and neat way, because we all have those times where we try and apply gel pen and it just looks like a mucky mess on the page. I've been there. Some shimmer and shine. That was really intense, wasn't it? Shimmer and shine. Shimmer and shine. I don't know. I'm never going to be like, I'm always going to be intense. By now, you guys would know that I love gel pens and I love tutorials. So why not combine the both into one amazing video? So we're just going to jump right in. I'll see you there. So I always start my gel pen pages by assigning particular colours to particular objects, and I keep this the same way throughout the entire project. So for example, this white gel pen here, this is going to be assigned to these little skinny flowers with the skinny petals. And then I will be applying my other coppery and golden and bronze tones to the other flowers. And I find this just keeps things consistent. It just keeps things, there's just a nice flow around the image. And I find because Johanna has already spaced out all of her different type of flowers in a really cohesive way, so I'm just naturally following that, and I'm letting Johanna's illustration kind of sort out half the decisions for me, if that makes sense. And so, as you can see, yes, I have picked a white, and I usually always pick a white. I won't say, yeah, do I always? Yeah, I usually pick a white in my flowery gel pen pages because I find that it just brings a bit of balance to the page, especially when we're going with super heavy colours. I like to break it up with a bit of white. Now we can see I've got a few different shades here of this coppery bronze colour, so I'm saving probably the boldest colour for the bigger flowers because I want those to stand out. And then this slightly paler copper colour for the tiny flowers. And as you can see as well, I am trying to stick within the lines when it comes to the gel pen. I don't really want to be putting the gel pen over the lines because I feel like it's going to be a little bit globby, and if you've watched a few of my gel pen tutorials, you know that that's kind of a regular thing for me. If I can help it, I will try my very best to stay within the lines. And then just using this very nice, I think it's a sepia from the Jelly Roll for the leaves. So as you can see, it's a very limited colour palette so far, and I'm keeping it that way intentionally so that my autumn pages look more golden and natural and less like 1970s Tupperware. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not a colour combination that I like. And I find that Johanna's illustration style is perfect for gel pen. There is just beautiful flower shapes and beautiful leaves, and the paper's just perfect. It's just a match made in heaven. And I find that I'm not, even though I am covering up some of the detail work, I don't have to cover up too much because her design is fairly minimalistic, which I find suits gel pen really well. The only thing that I find is with these skinny flowers is sometimes it's really hard to get that white into the very center, but usually I just kind of flick it through. And then all I need to do to fill in these little flowers here is just do little circles. And I'm keeping the center of the flowers is the one color, so it is the Jelly Roll Gold. I even think the number's 551. And hence why it's also a really good idea to have multiple types of gold in different brands, because you can do pages like this where you can have a few golds, a few coppers to choose from, and they all have similarities, but they are very different. And then coming in with this glittery gold, which was one of my favorite colors. This is from the Pentel Jewel Hybrid. So I'm using a few different brands today. I have Jelly Roll, Signo, and Pentel, which are usually my go-to brands when it comes to gel pen. I find they have a really thick and even laydown, and I don't have to go over everything again too much, especially with the pen that I'm using now. This comes out really thick, which is really nice. And again, with gel pen, I don't press too hard. You kind of just let the rollerball do the work for you, and that's how you're going to get that even ink flow. And usually with gel pen pages, I don't, because it's a wet medium, I don't go in and fill all the same flowers at once. I'll work my way across the page, and I just have my hand on a piece of paper because it just helps the natural oils out of my hand, I suppose, not leak onto the paper and smudge it. Not that it'd really be an issue with gel pen, but I just like to keep the page as clean as possible. And because I'm left-handed too, so I'm just going over it constantly. Now, I have quite a few white gel pens, and I find this particular one, this is a Signo white gel pen. This has the most vibrant and consistent color. I do have another white there on hand. I have a couple actually that I'm trying as I go, but I find this one just does the best job. And even though it's a little bit hard to see sometimes compared to the, I suppose it's hard to see how thickly the white has gone onto the page, because sometimes the color of the paper can make it a little bit tricky, but I feel like in most situations, Johanna's paper is good because it's that slightly off-white color. And I just go through and do a section at a time, and I usually do one type of flower first in a little cluster, and then I'll go through all the petals, and then I'll do the flower centers, and then I finish with the leaves. And I just cover over most of the details because I find that if I am trying to color and keep most of those little flower details, then it's just going to look messy. So I just cover it over. So with the little leaf creases there, I'm just covering those over. To me, it looks a little bit neater than if I were to try and outline around them. I feel like it would just look a bit, again, globby. Another option you could go if you don't have as many choices as I have here with the golds and things like that is you could go a very muted green leaves if you have them. To me, I would keep my bright greens and my bright colours more towards spring colour palettes if you can. Don't worry about going out and purchasing too many different types of gel pens if you don't have them already. Just use what you have on hand and just collect them over time because they can be quite expensive. So some gel pens can be $5 Australian each. And I know that some jelly roll packs, I've seen them as much as $55 Australian on Amazon. So sometimes it's a little bit more budget friendly just to collect pens as you go. And when you collect complete pages like this, just use what you have. And again, I'm sticking within the lines for all the elements and just these beautiful sparkly gold leaves here. And I've chosen to do the tiny leaves in this sparkly color because I just don't want to overwhelm the design with too much glitter. I kind of want to keep it more towards these metallic colors because it is quite, autumn's quite glowy and quite, yeah, quite soft and subtle. So perhaps for summer and spring, I could go a bit more heavier on the glitter. Even in winter color palettes, you could as well because you're probably going to be using less colors. So enhancing everything with that glitter can really look magical. And the great thing about these gel pen pages, especially in Johanna's books, is they do have repeating patterns, so it is quite nice. It reduces that decision fatigue. It reduces the thought process. We know that we've only got about 3 types of flowers, so we know that it's going to be predictable, and it just helps us just to chill out a little bit. It helps us with mindfulness, and I know that I really enjoy doing these pages because I don't have to think about technique as much. The only thing that I'm focusing on is picking the right color and keeping that gel pen ink within the lines. Now, I'm going as close to the edge as I can without going over it. There are some tricky spots, but I find that this just helps keep the petals separate, because if we were to color over the lines with gel pen, then you're not going to see the outlines of each petal, and it's just going to look like this blob on the page. Or in some situations, that might be the style that is required, or it might be the style that you're looking for, so that's fine. So please don't feel like this is a one size fits all approach. This is just the way that I like to do it and the way that I like to complete my pages and the look and the feel that I'm going for. Especially too because a lot of Johanna's line work is quite thick, so I find that the black goes really well, and it's quite easy to go right up to the edge without going over it. And here I'm trying a different white because I think in this light, I remember not being able to see the white that I had done very well. So I was just trying a different one, and I found that I was just getting a bit of ink clog up on the rollerball. So I did end up giving it a wipe, which I usually do with my whites anyway. But this particular white is coming out a little bit more watery, so I do end up going back to the original pen that I was using. I love this coppery pen. It's almost like a burnt orange, like a pumpkin orange or a minimal orange. It's just beautiful. Mineral orange, I should say, not minimal orange. Oh, sometimes I can just not pronounce my words. And another way to do it, if you don't have different shades of gold and different coppery tones, is you can introduce more pencils. So, say for example, if you didn't have that really bright orange, you could just grab your pencils and do that. So, by all means, you can just mix and match your mediums based on what you have. And because I'm already applying pencil to the center of the page once the gel pen work is completed, pencils will look really nice. And again, just getting as close to the line as I can without going over it. And it does depend on the gel pen as well. If you've got really good quality gel pens, the ink, if you will, or the gel in the pen is going to be quite thick, and so it's going to behave a lot more. You'll be able to control it. Whereas if you have something that's a little bit more watery, you might have a bit of issue with bleed out and not being able to control where it stays. So I find the jelly rolls and the Signos are really good for that, and the Pentels too. But again, it just depends on availability, because I know that a lot of the Signos that I use aren't really available anywhere else other than Australia. There's a certain type of Signo that I use that I remember having from my childhood, and I remember going into the newsagent and buying them and getting the ones that smelt like banana, or the neon ones, or the sparkly ones, and I have since found that design in the shop, or in the shops, for the last 20 years. They're still there, but when I look for them online, I just can't find them. So again, it is The gel pens that you purchase is really subject to availability and where you can find them and what is going to fit within your budget as well. So while I can recommend having certain brands and I can recommend what's going to work better, it's really up to you and what you enjoy. I would really like to try some of the Jelly Roll glaze on the flower centers, so just giving that little bit more of a raised effect would be cool. Eventually I will. They are very expensive for us in Australia, so I'm waiting on a good deal. And at this point, I am thinking about what color I want to have in the center of the wreath here. Originally, I was thinking muted greens. However, as you know, I do go with more of a golden color. But I think muted greens look really nice as well because it will complement the gold nicely and it will complement the color of Mr. Fox in the middle there too. And gel pen is great because if you miss a little bit, if there's a little gap there, then you can just go back over it. It's not going to bleed through. It's one of the reasons why I really like using gel pens, especially having gel pen heavy pages, is because they just stick to the paper so well. They don't bleed through like alcohol markers do. And I do have some Ohuhu markers that bleed through as well. So some glitter markers that bleed through. I think one of my favorite things to color was these big leaves as well. Heck, I just liked the whole thing. I had so much fun with this. I was almost disappointed that it was over so quickly. I think in total, it was about 5 hours, which is quicker than usual. I would say a usual full page is about 8 to 12, depending on how much detail there is. So this was on the quicker side, but still really enjoyable. And it was nice to color a wreath opposed to a whole page where it's a flat lay of individual designs. I like the way they're all clustered together. It was a little bit difficult to try and move around the wreath so that you could still see my work clearly. Not try and angle myself at a really awkward position. And you can see too that when you apply gel pen, it can leave little dots, it can leave tiny little pools of colour. Those will flatten out as it dries. So you can see with those flowers here how there's like little dots in the middle of the petals. Those will flatten out. So don't worry too much about those. If you try and flatten those out, all you're going to do is apply more ink on the page and you're just going to risk bleed through because even though applying one layer like this, it won't bleed through. If you keep going over it, it will, and you will damage your paper. So just try and just do one layer if you can, and you can go back over it and like I was saying before and fill in little gaps that you've missed, but try not to add too much if you can help it. And I think this glittery gold goes really well with that kind of bronzy, coppery, almost pink, I reckon. I could almost do like a small victories page in just those three colours. So that gold center, the glittery leaves, and that pinky coppery colour. I might do that. What do you reckon? I'd love to know in the comments what your favourite autumnal colour combinations are. So let me know. And let me know what your favourite mediums to use are as well. And as I'm completing this, I'm just doing it in little sections because I don't want my hands to go over the paper too much that I smudge wet gel pen. So just be mindful of your hand position and what you're completing and try not to stretch so far over that if you have to go back there again, that you're going to smudge wet gel because I have done that so many times. So I feel like I'm a little bit What's that saying? The once bitten, twice shy. So I probably am a little bit too cautious with this and I'll just do little section by little section. It probably slows me up a little bit, but it's peace of mind, so I'll just keep it that way. And the further you move inwards towards the spine, the more you might find that you have your page might start bouncing because the book might not be completely cracked, which is what I definitely found with this. I found that I had to press my page down. I could have cracked the book a bit more, however, I just worry that I'm going to damage it too much too soon, so I just left it. Because this particular image, I feel, is about 3/4 of the way through the book. So we start getting really limited paper underneath this one, hence the bounciness. And I found too that because all the flowers were bunched together, I found that I hardly missed anything. I find that when I do complete flat lay pages of gel pen, I miss so many sections because it's all laid out and it's a bit hard to see. But with it all clustered like this, yeah, I found it was really good just to go through and complete everything. I wasn't having to go back and recheck too much because if you have watched some of my other tutorials, you'll know that I just miss bits all the time. Becomes like a bit of a Where's Wally or Where's Waldo. I don't know what he's called lately. When I was a kid, it was Where's Wally. And again, just trying to hold that bouncy page down with my little pinky there. If I was going to go through with pan pastel, then I wouldn't put my finger on there. I would put a piece of paper down first because if you were to apply pastel afterwards, it's going to pick up the oils from your finger. But because I'm just using gel pen, I know it's not going to pick it up, so I'm not worried about it. So in terms of backgrounds with this, so yes, you could go ahead with pan pastel first if you wanted to. I'm just leaving the outer edge blank because I feel like it just brings the focal point into the center of the page a little bit more, which is what I want because Mr. Fox down there will be colored in. I feel like I don't need to do the outside as much. And because it means I don't have to tape up the page and I don't have to worry about putting pages underneath, yada yada. So for me, it's just easier. And you can see that flower that I just did was a little bit streaky. So I do go in and I just lightly brush the pen over those top bits eventually. I think I was filming majority of this at night, so it was a little bit harder to see. There we go, just a light little dusting. I certainly don't go over the whole flower petal again. It's just not needed, and again, with it's just gonna create a bit of a mess. And I found that the only color that I've really needed, or the only pen that I've really needed to wipe and keep clean is the white. The rest do a really good job of keeping clean themselves, so I don't need to remove a whole lot of gunk, which is great. I don't know what it is about the white. It just seems to be a really crumbly pencil. Not pencil, pen. Because with gel pens, it is all about that rollerball, and you want to keep that rollerball moving freely so that your ink flows out nicely. Because if you don't, it's just going to be a bit of a pain to try and get smooth, even lines. Okay, and now I'm going in with some pencil. Now, I do change tack about halfway through, which you will see. So originally, I'm trying to go with a multicolor kind of design and have a few different bits and bobs in there, and you will see me do it. However, once I've done it, I do change my mind and I go over it again, which is the great thing about pencil work is that you can just go over it if you're not happy with it. So this is goldenrod here, so I'm just starting with my darkest yellow color, and I'm going to bring it inwards towards the fox because he is that focal point. And I think if I had my time again, I would have just done the whole thing in a very thick layer of goldenrod, which is what I end up doing anyway. Once I've realized that I didn't like what I was trying to do. It's funny how you have this idea in your mind's eye about what you want and then you try it and it's just like, no. Now again, you don't have to use yellow. I just used a yellow combination because I personally felt that it went really well with the colors that were already there and it kind of represented that beautiful golden light that autumn seems to have. Like I was saying before, you could use some muted greens, you could use blues as well. However, I would just be err on the side of caution because it can be really easy for autumnal pages just to go a bit crazy. Could use purple too. I suppose, yeah, it is stylistic preference, but I wanted to keep it fairly muted just so that, yeah, I had this beautiful, warm, golden picture. And again, not the 1970s Tupperware cabinet. And this particular section wasn't as detailed as I thought. I thought that filling in these little gaps would take me hours, but it actually just took me about 10 to 20 minutes per run, which was pretty good. And at this point, I start to go in with some mineral orange because I think, oh, this would be fun. And yeah, I just didn't like it at the end. I was like, oh, I don't know. So yeah, I just went over it. But it was fun to try. And I think it's reminded me to go back and do a few more tutorials myself on this kind of effect. Because again, I know in my mind's eye what I'm trying to achieve, but it's just not translating onto the page what I thought. So, I mean, by all means, if you like it, then you can replicate it. But I think just for me, I was like, nah, maybe not. And even going in with some dark brown. Actually, no, I think this was light umber. Because I was like, oh, I'll add some darker colors. And yeah, okay, like, it's got potential, but I just, yeah, nah. Then I was trying to smooth it out with a bit of cream, which again, you know, 10 points for trying to fix it, but I think I've done like 3 laps of this wreath that I really didn't need to do in hindsight, but that's fine. And now to start working our way into the center now, it can be a little bit intimidating to try and get that color gradient even and have an even circle because there's not a clear defined line of where the wreath in the center ends, is there? So just try your best to eyeball it. And I found that I kept on just taking a step back and I, at some points, would just try and unfocus my eyes a little bit because it helped me just focus on the edge there and the edge of the goldenrod that I was bringing in, if that makes sense. I find that unfocusing my eyes really helps me just zoom out and look at the bigger picture sometimes. I don't mean like I'm going cross-eyed, but yeah. I just have this, yeah, I can unfocus them a little bit, just enough to kind of remove all the other details and just focus on what I'm trying to look at. So I'm just starting to work my way to my lighter colors, and I think this at this point, when I get about 3 colors in, I decide that the colors between the little flowers on the wreath need to be just a solid color. But again, how are you going to know if it's not something that you've ever done before? It's something that, like, maybe I've played around with a little bit, but I've certainly never done a gel pen page with a full pencil background. So this is yellow ochre or ochre, depending on, I don't know. And I'm just working my way towards some sandy beigey colours. So I think next is sand, then jasmine, and then cream. Just to create a bit of a glow effect because, again, autumn, glowy. Yeah. Super technical on my channel. And apart from the little background there in the flowers, at this point, I'm really happy with how the colour palette's looking. I always have a bit of a hesitation when it comes to gel pen colour palettes because they can get out of hand really quickly. And if you've ever tried to create your own color palette with gel pens, you'll know what I mean. They can just be so intense. And so by this point, yeah, I was really happy with what I decided. I do have a few notebooks in front of me where I scribble on things and I try different colors out before I apply them to the coloring page because it can be quite hard to undo. They don't just erase off like pencils can. Going in with I believe this is sand at this point. And I'm just doing the usual blending and burnishing technique for the color gradient and just going over areas because there are points where it looks a bit squiggly, scratchy, but I think, yeah, I think that's just me. I don't always get it right. And also to try and get the pencil around all the tiny little leaves and things can be a little bit challenging, but if you just go over things a few times, then you can generally achieve a nice, bold, saturated color. And again, it depends on the style you like as well. So you certainly don't have to blend and burnish like I'm doing. You can layer it opposed to this method, which is where you would apply your lightest color first and then work your way outwards and layer them opposed to smush. And this is the jasmine here. I find there's not much difference between sand and jasmine in the Prismacolor pencils, but at first glance. But when you apply them, it's like, oh no, there is. I have all my pencils swatched out so that I can refer to them, which is actually so handy. So if you haven't done it yet, I recommend swatching out your Prismacolor pencils or any pencil set that you use because it is so much easier when it comes to referencing and you can come up with your own color combinations as well. I find it's easier to do that when you've swatched them out yourself. I'm just trying to soften up some of those edges a little bit so that I can come in with that cream and just finish it off. And I'm pressing quite hard there because I want the cream to blend in with the other colours. And I want it to be quite a solid colour as well. You could add white after this cream. However, I felt that given how close the outline of that circle is to the fox, I felt like I didn't have enough room. And smoothing out some of the areas that I feel like just need a bit of mushing. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? We're just going straight back in with a goldenrod, which is what I'm doing right now. And I'm really happy that I did that. And look, I think some of the colours underneath do bring out a bit of a nice effect. So that brown gives off a bit of a shadowy look, which is quite effective. So I'm not saying I completely regret the layers underneath. I think they do contribute to the overall look. I just feel like I could have saved some time, but that's okay. Yeah, if you wanted to as well, you could go through with a white gel pen and add little dots in those little gaps there. I was thinking about it, but decided not to. I mean, I could always go back and do them later, but I felt like the end result was looking quite nice. I was happy with it. I really like this page. And now we're starting with our little foxy. So this is terracotta. So I'm just using the terracotta on some of the areas. So where Johanna's placed some little shading lines, I'm just going over those. I certainly don't want to create the whole, I certainly don't want to do the whole edge of the fox with them because it's probably going to be a bit too heavy. And then I'm going in with my pumpkin orange. Now I'm going to apply this to most of the edges. I really just wanted to have that terracotta as a little bit of a, just a base shading. And I feel like even though the fox is a little bit more orange than the bigger flowers, I feel like they all complement each other really well. And I'm just shading, going around the outside. I found he was really easy to shade because it was very intuitive. The way that Johanna's drawn him and the way she's applied her own shading, it was really easy to figure out. Or maybe it's because I've just come off the back of a Kirby page and this just seemed really easy compared to that. Who would actually know? And I end up, so I'm not going to colour the sections that I've left white because I was going to, but I found that I like the look of how the white of the fox kind of went with the white of the flowers. So I decided to leave it and then going over with a beige. So the other colour was mineral orange and this is beige. So just adding some highlights and colouring in those areas. Oh, he's so cute. And there we have it, guys. Our completed gel pen page. How glowy and beautiful does that look? Aww, he's so cute. This is one of my favourite pages. Thank you so much for joining me in today's gel pen tutorial. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I feel like I could do this page 10 times over and have just as much fun every time. If you haven't already, please check out some of my other gel pen tutorials. I have plenty. I will pop them up on the screen. Will I? I will put a link to my gel pen playlist below if you're interested in more gel pen pages because I can't get enough. Yeah. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.